Cycling myths. Like every sport, hobby, whatever, cycling has a number of myths that have built up around it over the years. We thought we'd put together a quick video of 10 of the ones we hear most commonly and how they are actually all untrue. You have to be fit to cycle? Not really. Cycling is a low impact sport and is often recommended by doctors, etc., as a way for people that are not particularly fit to get fit. You don't need to go far, you don't need to go fast unless you're racing, and the people that are trying to get fit certainly aren't going to be racing. You can get a bike, pick some local routes that are fairly flat, fairly short, and just go out there and cycle at your own pace. If you don't want to cycle with other people, there's always groups around that will go at your sort of pace. They'll be all inclusive and they certainly won't leave you behind. So there's absolutely no reason not to get out and cycle, no matter what your fitness level is. Cyclists must use cycle lanes. This is another misconception that you hear quite regularly. There is no requirement for cyclists to use cycle lanes. In fact, if you look at rule 63, I think it is, on the highway code, it specifically says that the use of cycle lanes is not compulsory. It of course recommends them, but they are not actually compulsory. There are times when use of a cycle lane may actually be more dangerous. There may be traffic in the cycle lane, because cars can park in the cycle lane. There may be buses parked, that type of thing. So actually the use of cycle lanes isn't compulsory. It's recommended where it's safe to use them, but not actually compulsory. Cyclists should keep left. That's another one that's regularly trotted out by motorists. No, they don't have to keep left. A little bit like cycle lanes really. There's no requirement in law for cyclists to ride at the left hand side of the road. In fact, a lot of cases it's actually dangerous for cyclists to ride right over on the left hand side of the road. There's a lot of debris in there, there's a lot of stuff that can cause punctures, all that sort of stuff. There's drains, potholes, they all tend to be right on the left hand side of the carriageway. So cycling right in the left is not considered particularly safe for cyclists. So that's why you see many cyclists cycling out near the middle of the lane. They call it taking the lane or taking the primary position. And most cycling organisations, certainly Cycling UK, British Cycling, recommend that cyclists cycle at least 50 centimetres away from the curb, preferably a metre. That gives you out in the middle of the road. Also makes you more visible to motorists as well, rather than being tucked over on the left hand side. So again, in law there is no requirement to cycle on the left. Groups of riders should ride single file. That's untrue. The highway code actually recommends that groups of riders on roads that are wide enough ride two abreast. This allows cars to overtake in a much shorter length of time than they would do if a big group of riders was strung out in a long line. The only exception to this would probably be on narrow country lanes where it's difficult for a car to overtake. If you are two abreast, riders would be expected to line out. There's some quite scientific explanations of how this actually works better, which I'm not going to go into here. If you look just below, just there, I'm going to put a link into a page on the website that explains it, and I'll also put that in the video description below. Cyclists shouldn't be on the road because they don't pay car tax. Well, that's sort of true, but then actually nobody pays car tax. Car tax was abolished in the 1930s, I think. What most people are actually referring to when they say car tax is vehicle excise duty, which is a tax on emissions. So as a zero emission form of transport, cyclists are exempt from that, like many cars are. Electric cars, I believe, most electric cars are exempt from vehicle. I only said road tax, from vehicle excise duty. So yeah, we can be on the roads because we don't pay vehicle excise duty on our emissions. If you want to take that one step further, many cyclists are actually car drivers as well, so they're already paying vehicle excise duty on a car that they're not actually using. So why shouldn't they be on the road with their bicycles? Cycling is expensive. Sure, it can be expensive if you want to go out and buy the latest carbon Pinarello with electronic gear shift, expensive helmet, expensive shoes, expensive pedals and a sat nav, etc. You're probably not going to get any change from £10,000, and £10,000 probably won't even be anywhere near enough. But you can actually go into your local chain bicycle store and pick up a brand new bike for around about £200, and you can go out and you can cycle anywhere you like on that. And don't forget, there's also your local bike shop. They quite often have some good deals in at various times of the year, especially late on in the year. They're usually trying to shift stock from the previous year, and also they're more likely to have a decent selection of second-hand bikes, so you might even be able to pick up a very good second-hand bargain. So cycling doesn't need to be expensive. Cycling is dangerous. Yeah, that's another one that gets tried out quite regularly. It's not really that dangerous when you look at the stats compared to lots of other sports. It doesn't compare any worse or any better than any other sport really. Sure, you can make it dangerous if you want. You can go riding around a city centre in the dead of night with no lights and black clothing on. But if you take sensible precautions, you light yourself up at night, you don't go out and do routes that are beyond your, should we say, beyond your skill level. You're not a brand new mountain biker who suddenly goes to take on a massive gnarly downhill with equipment that is not up to it or beyond your skill level. There's no reason why cycling should be any more dangerous than any other sport out there. It all just depends on how safely you want to take it. You can get points on your motoring licence for cycling offences. Again, if you think about that one, that's not really possible. There are many cyclists who aren't motorists, so how would they be able to get points on their motoring licence for cycling offences? However, you can be fined for cycling offences. Anything from £50 spot fine for a minor offence, right up to something like, I think, £2,500 for running a red light and more serious offences. So don't be tempted in thinking that because you haven't got a motoring licence or you can't get motoring licence points for cycling offences that you're going to get away with it. You certainly won't. Roads were built for cars. No, they weren't. Roads have been around 2,000 years since the Romans first put them in this country. This is something you see regularly trotted out by motorists. They're not built for cars. They were built for people on horseback. Then the bicycle came along next, and then the car came along after that. Sure, we've got car drivers, motorists, whatever you want to call them, to thank for the state of the roads, the improvement of the roads, I suppose, because they would have only been dirt tracks years ago, and the advent of the motor car has meant that they've become tarmacked and in much better condition. But the roads weren't initially built for cars; they were built for other forms of transport. So we can all use the roads. And lastly, you need a load of gear. No, you don't really. All you actually need is your bicycle. You can cycle in jeans, t-shirt, trainers if you want to, shorts, whatever you feel comfortable cycling, you can cycle in. Sure, if you kind of go longer distances, you join a club, stuff like that, you might end up eventually investing in some more gear, something just to make those longer rides a little bit more comfortable. But actually there's no reason why you need to have anything other than a bicycle to start your journey in cycling. So there you have it, 10 common cycling myths busted. As always, if you like the video, please subscribe, hit the bell button, you'll get notified of when our next video comes out. Until next time, I'll see you out on the road.